You could feel the tension from the parking lot. The Cleveland Browns facility, usually humming with routine and rehearsed optimism, had turned into a pressure cooker. The kind of atmosphere where one wrong look or one brutally honest Instagram live could shatter the illusion of unity they worked so hard to curate. And then came Shedeur, not storming in, not yelling, not causing some viral locker room meltdown. No, his weapon of choice wasn't noise. It was calm clarity, precision, poise. He didn't need to throw chairs. He didn't need to call out names. He just needed a phone. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. On a quiet Sunday evening after yet another painfully underwhelming performance in the Browns offense, Shedeur Sanders picked up his phone, opened Instagram, and went live. No filters, no team-issued polo, just him, a plain hoodie, and a message the world wasn't ready for. I'm ready. I've been ready. This ain't ego. This is preparation. I'm not here to wait behind excuses. I'm here to lead. That was it. No shots, no drama, just truth. And that 60-second clip, it blew the roof off the building. Players were already whispering about the coaching staff. Fans were already tweeting stats comparing Sanders to the bland quarterback carousel the Browns insisted on rotating. But now, the locker room had a spark. Veterans reposted the clip with fire emojis. Wide receivers started liking tweets about Sanders starting. Even former Browns players, long removed from the franchise, chimed in with subtle but telling support. And Kevin Stefanski? Silent. The man who had hung his hat on being the steady hand, the offensive guru, the player's coach, was suddenly exposed because the numbers didn't lie. The eye test didn't lie. And now, Shedeur wasn't staying quiet either. Let's rewind for a second. Sanders dominated in preseason. He threw his zip, read defenses like a vet, and walked into the building like he owned it. Not in a cocky way. In a way that made teammates want to follow. In a way that made fans believe again. But Stefanski wouldn't budge. He stuck with the safe bet, the game manager, the guy who knows the system. And loss after loss, check down after check down, it became clearer. Stefanski wasn't coaching to win. He was coaching not to lose. Big difference. And Shedeur? He had enough. What followed was a slow-motion collapse disguised as maintaining the course. Stefanski dismissed the noise, called it external distractions, but the building wasn't buying it. Players started leaking frustrations to reporters. Local media stopped tiptoeing. Even Browns ownership started having closed-door meetings, asterisk without asterisk Stefanski. The Instagram live wasn't a meltdown. It was a mirror, and what the franchise saw staring back at them was a young man more composed, more prepared, and more leadership-ready than the guy wearing a headset. So when Stefanski was fired 2 days later, it wasn't a surprise. It was a formality. The new era began before the press release hit Twitter. And Shedeur? He didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. He showed up early the next day, hit the weight room, and ran first-team reps like he'd been waiting his whole life. Because he had. And here's the kicker. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't about power. It was about purpose. Shedeur Sanders didn't cost Kevin Stefanski his job. Stefanski's refusal to adapt did. His stubbornness, his ego, his unwillingness to see what was right in front of him. Shedeur just exposed the truth with grace. That's what makes this story different. That's why it matters. Because in today's NFL, it's not enough to be talented. You have to be calculated, strategic, professional. You have to play the game on and off the field. And Sanders, he played it perfectly. So now, the Browns aren't just rebuilding. They're rebooting. The old ways? Gone. The coach who thought silence was strength? Replaced. The system that ignored performance for politics? Burned to the ground. What rises from those ashes? A new Browns culture, built on talent, truth, and trust. And at the center of it all, a 21-year-old quarterback who proved that sometimes the most powerful play isn't made on the field. It's made with your voice. Comment your thoughts below and let us know Was this the turning point Cleveland finally needed? And don't forget to subscribe, because Shedeur Sanders isn't just playing football. He's rewriting the rules of the game. As Shedeur Sanders settled into the role of QB1, the vibe inside the Browns facility flipped like a light switch. What had once been tense, tight-lipped, and coldly bureaucratic now felt alive, reinvigorated, even fun. Guys weren't just going through walkthroughs. They were competing again, competing with purpose. And here's the wildest part. He didn't even have to say much. He just showed up, day in and day out, and worked like he still had something to prove, even after the coach who held him back was gone. That's what real leaders do. They don't spike the football after winning the power struggle. They build the offense from the rubble and bring everyone with them. And suddenly, that locker room, once divided, was locked in. You could see it during team meetings. Eyes that used to roll when Stefanski rambled about executing the system were now laser-focused. Guys weren't just nodding along, they were listening. Because when Shedeur spoke, it wasn't filler. It was facts. He wasn't sugarcoating it. He was calling it like it was. We left touchdowns on the field. We're better than this. Let's stop playing scared and start playing smart. And no one took it personally. Because when your QB is the first one in, the last one out, and the first to take accountability, how do you not follow that? Even veterans who had seen everything started stepping up their game. One player reportedly told the media, "You don't want to be the guys slacking when the rookie's already outworking you." That's respect. Earned, not gifted. And the fans? Oh, they felt it too. Ticket sales spiked. Merch flew off shelves. Even opposing fan bases started paying attention. Because Shedeur wasn't just winning games. He was changing the entire temperature of the franchise. National pundits who used to treat Cleveland like an annual punchline were suddenly forced to take them seriously. NFL Network? The Browns might finally have their guy. First Take? Sanders has ice in his veins and a point to prove. Social media? A full-blown Sanders season. And yet, through all the buzz, the interviews, the highlight reels, the viral sideline clips, Shedeur stayed grounded, always redirecting praise to his O-line, his receivers, the defense, never once making it about revenge. Even when reporters tried to bait him into a soundbite about Stefanski's firing, he gave them nothing. I respect Coach Stefanski. I just want to win football games. Translation, I already won. I don't need to talk about it. But let's not get it twisted. Behind that calm exterior, there was fire, drive, a competitive edge that made it clear this wasn't about one season. This was his team now. And that shift didn't just echo through Cleveland. It sent a message across the league. Because every front office, every coach clinging to outdated schemes and quarterback hierarchies, had just been handed a case study in what not to do. If you have a generational talent in your building, and you ignore it because you're scared of the spotlight shifting, you deserve what comes next. Because talent doesn't sit quietly forever. Eventually it speaks, and sometimes it does it on social media. But more importantly, it speaks with results. Let's talk numbers for a second. In his first 4 starts, Shedeur threw for over 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and just 1 pick. He led 2 game-winning drives, including one against Baltimore that ended with a 40-yard laser to the corner of the end zone. The Ravens' defensive coordinator literally shook his head and muttered, "That kid's the real deal," into a hot mic. The Browns? 4-0 in that stretch. Coincidence? Please. It was more than stats. It was the energy, the composure, the swagger without arrogance, the refusal to shrink under pressure. And sure, some doubters tried to frame it as a fluke. "He'll cool off," they said. "Let's see him against elite defenses," they insisted. But every week that passed, Shedeur just kept answering. Not with trash talk, with touchdown drives, 3rd down conversions, poise in the pocket, that signature eye roll and silent nod when someone blitzed him and he still dropped a dime 30 yards downfield. It wasn't hype anymore. It was happening. And the best part? He hadn't even scratched the surface. Because as the Browns entered the back half of the season, something bigger was unfolding. A cultural transformation. The toxic fog of fear and rigidity that used to hang over this franchise was clearing. And in its place, a team that believed. They believed in each other. They believed in their quarterback. And for the first time in a long time, they believed in the future. But here's the kicker. All of this came from a kid most NFL execs said wasn't ready. From a rookie who was told to sit, learn, wait your turn. From a player who didn't scream or slam doors when he was benched. He just spoke the truth, waited for the storm, and walked out of it taller. And that's power. Not just arm strength. Not just accuracy. But the quiet kind. The kind that turns chaos into clarity. The kind that doesn't need a title to lead. The kind that can humble an entire franchise without ever raising its voice. So yes, Kevin Stefanski lost his job. But what really cost him his position wasn't a press conference or a missed challenge flag. It was pride. It was ignoring a generational player right in front of him. It was choosing control over creativity. It was trying to dim the light of a quarterback who was built to shine. And now, the Browns have a new identity, a new standard, a new expectation. And it all started with one IG live, one truth bomb, and one quarterback who refused to play small. Let that be a lesson to every coach, exec, and fan in the league. In the new NFL, talent doesn't knock politely. It walks in and takes the damn room. And Shedeur Sanders? He's not just in the room now. He owns the whole building. Drop your thoughts below. Is this the Shedeur era for real? Or just the beginning of something even bigger? Hit subscribe. Because, trust me, we're just getting started. By week 10, it wasn't just Cleveland tuning in. National broadcasts, flexed, primetime slots, claimed. Fantasy football managers who once laughed at Browns quarterbacks were now starting Sanders and refreshing their apps every 5 minutes. But the real shift? That was happening behind the scenes. Inside team meetings, things that used to be mechanical suddenly had meaning. The offense wasn't just running plays. They were creating. There was collaboration, passion. Guys started pitching ideas. Receivers would speak up in the huddle. And Shedeur listened, adjusted, delivered. You want to talk about chemistry? The dude had his tight and running custom routes based on eye contact. That's not just talent. That's trust. And it can't be faked. Meanwhile, the defense? They were eating it up. Because nothing fuels a defense more than watching your offense march down the field and actually score touchdowns. It's amazing what happens to a locker room when they're not fighting each other. They're fighting for each other. And in the eye of that storm, Shedeur, cool, calm, clinical, but with swagger. Not the empty kind. Not the look at my chain performative stuff. The real kind. The I know what I'm doing, and I know we're going to win kind. Cleveland hadn't seen that kind of energy at quarterback since, well, maybe ever. And don't get it twisted. There were still bumps. He took hits. He made mistakes. He threw an interception in a close game against Kansas City and got lit up on social media for a full 48 hours. And what did he do? He came back the next week and cooked the Chargers for 380 yards and 4 touchdowns. Because that's who he is. Built different. Cut from that Dion cloth. That pressure is a privilege cloth. And man, the cameras loved him. Every post-game clip went viral. Every sideline interaction turned into a meme. But here's the thing that made it stick. He backed it up. Anyone can talk, but not everyone can lead. And leadership, that's what made the Browns dangerous again. Not just because Shedeur was slinging it, but because he made everyone better. The offensive line played sharper. The receivers fought for every extra yard. Even the kickers started hitting from 50 like it was nothing. It was contagious. And remember the fans? The ones who've been traumatized for years by bad calls, bad trades, and worse quarterback play? They were back. Loud, loyal, rowdy, dog-pound energy, and all-time high. They weren't just watching games anymore. They believed again. Tailgates turned into pep rallies. Kids were rocking Sanders jerseys like he'd been there for a decade. You could feel it in the air. Something was different. But here's what made it truly wild. Other teams were taking notes. GMs around the league, quietly telling their scouting departments, find me the next Shedeur. Coaches on hot seats, asking themselves if they were pulling a Stefanski. ignoring the obvious talent because it didn't fit the plan. And quarterbacks in other cities, they saw the writing on the wall. The new standard wasn't just arm strength. It was mindset, vision, voice. Because Shedeur didn't wait for the system to work for him. He changed it. And the Browns, to their credit, finally let it happen. Front office folks who once hesitated to shake things up now looked like visionaries. Ownership, smiling from their suite instead of pacing in frustration. Everyone, from the water boy to the VP of football operations, started walking with a little more confidence because they knew what the rest of the league was just starting to realize. This kid wasn't a flash in the pan. He was the future. And then came the moment that solidified it. Week 14, Steelers at Browns. Prime time, the most brutal rivalry in the division. The kind of game that chews up rookies and spits them into headlines. It's freezing. It's loud. The Steelers are bringing heat on every snap. And yet Shedeur, unshaken. Midway through the fourth, tied game, 2 minutes left, ball on the 18. Everyone watching knew what was coming. The test, can the kid deliver when it really matters? 2 completions, 1 scramble, 1 absolute laser on a post route to Amari Cooper. Boom. Touchdown. Game. Set. Shedeur. And you could hear it from every sports desk in America. The Browns have a quarterback. Finally. It was poetic, really. The kid who'd been told to wait, told to learn behind a veteran, told to respect the process, had just carved at the team that made a living off bullying Browns QBs for the last 20 years. Call it revenge. Call it redemption. Call it what you want. But make no mistake, it was payback. Not just for Shedeur, but for every Browns fan who stuck around through all the false starts and heartbreaks. For every rookie who was told to shut up and earn it instead of being allowed to show up and prove it. Shedeur Sanders flipped the script. He didn't ask for the keys. He took them. And then he drove the whole damn franchise out of the ditch and into the national spotlight. And the crazy part? He's just getting started. Because this isn't just a comeback story. It's not a fluke. It's not a cute rookie rides a wave moment. This is a new dynasty in the making. A team built around a quarterback who knows who he is, knows what he wants, and knows exactly how to get it. A front office that finally learned. When you got gold, you don't bury it. And a city that's finally feeling like the football gods might be paying attention. So here we are. 1 season. 1 rookie. 1 revolution. And if you're still sleeping on Shedeur Sanders, wake up or get run over. Because he's not just here to win games. He's here to change the game. And from what we've seen so far, he's doing a hell of a job. Because once Shedeur Sanders planted his flag in the middle of the AFC North, the rest of the league started holding emergency meetings. And not the kind with donuts and coffee. No, this was DEFCON 1 level quarterback panic. Teams with aging stars, shaky rookies, or placeholder passers suddenly had to ask themselves a hard question. Do we have a Shedeur? And for most of them, the answer was not even close. But let's zoom in for a second. Because while the headlines were on Shedeur, while the SportsCenter segments were running slow-mo footage of his flawless release and 40-yard missiles, the real story was happening inside that Browns locker room. People forget this was a team on the verge of collapse just months ago. Fractured trust, quiet resentment, a head coach who had lost the room and didn't even realize it until it was too late. But now you had veteran defenders giving interviews where they were calling Shedeur a field general. You had offensive linemen staying late to work on timing with a quarterback they believed in. You had receivers flat out fighting for targets because they knew he could get it to them. That's not just leadership. That's transformation. And what made it all the more surreal was just how quickly it happened. This wasn't some 5-year rebuild. This wasn't we'll develop you and check back in 2028. No, this was Shedeur walking in, reading the room, and flipping the entire culture on its head with zero apologies. And here's the thing everyone underestimates. That kind of presence isn't teachable. You can't coach swagger with substance. You can't scheme emotional intelligence. You can't fake the way a guy commands attention just by walking into a room. That's what Stefanski missed. He thought leadership was a resume, experience, a clipboard, and a headset. But real leadership is when your teammates look at you mid-blitz, down by 4, crowd screaming, season on the line, and they trust you. And Shedeur, he earned that trust one rep at a time. No shortcuts, no politics, just production. Let's talk about what happened off the field. 2. Remember that Instagram Live that started all this? That 60-second clip where Shedeur simply said, "I'm ready"? It turns out he wasn't just talking to the coaching staff. He was talking to the entire NFL, to every GM, every analyst, every armchair critic who doubted whether he belonged in this league. That lib became more than a clip. It became a line in the sand. And from that moment on, everything changed. Endorsements piling in. His cleats sold out in minutes. Even rival players started showing love. Justin Jefferson commented, "Keep going on a highlight reel." Micah Parsons called him a killer in the pocket on his podcast. Hell, even Tom Brady posted a subtle respect on his story. You know you've arrived when Tom Brady is tipping his hat. But Shedeur never flinched. He didn't bask in the moment. He expanded it. More workouts, more film, more prep. Because while everyone else was just now buying stock, he already knew his value. And let's not forget the media frenzy. Every post-game presser became a spectacle. He didn't dodge tough questions, but he didn't play politics either. He was honest, direct, thoughtful. He gave credit where it was due. He called out mistakes without throwing anyone under the bus. He praised his teammates by name, not cliches. The press loved him. His teammates loved him. But most importantly, the city loved him. Cleveland, a town with one of the most emotionally exhausted fan bases in sports, had finally found something to believe, and that didn't come with a disclaimer. And man, that city showed up. Murals started popping up near the stadium. The Dog Father, with Shedeur in a gold crown, cleats planted on a broken headset. High schools started running quarterback clinics, inspired by his footwork. Bars offered Shedeur shots every time he threw a touchdown. Fans tailgate with giant cardboard cutouts of his head. This wasn't hype. This was hope. Hope that this time, finally, the Browns had done something right. That they didn't trade away the future. That they didn't smother talent in the name of structure. That for once, they let a star rise without trying to clip his wings first. And look, we've seen one-hit wonders before. Rookies who shine fast and fade even faster. The league is littered with cautionary tales. But Shedeur, he wasn't fading. In fact, with every game, he got sharper, more patient, more dangerous. You could almost see the game slowing down for him. Blitz pickup, read it before the snap. Back shoulder timing with his WR1, dialed in. Red zone efficiency, best in the league for a 6-game stretch. And then came the playoff push. Suddenly, what felt like a rebuilding year was looking like a wild card run. The schedule wasn't easy, Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, but the Browns were rolling. The defense fed off the offense's rhythm. The offensive line started mauling guys at the point of attack. And Shedeur, he was playing like he had something personal against mediocrity. And honestly, maybe he did. Because this wasn't just about wins and losses anymore. This was about changing the narrative. About proving that a 21-year-old quarterback could walk into one of the most cursed franchises in the league and uncurse it, not with superstition, with standard. He didn't just want the Browns to win. He wanted them to expect to win, to prepare like winners, to act like contenders, every single day. And by the time they clinched that wild card spot, that belief wasn't just talk. It was real. From where we started to where they are now. It's the kind of story that feels scripted. The rookie everyone doubted. The coach who wouldn't let him play. The media firestorm. The compost. The culture shift. The win streak. The playoffs. It's every underdog movie you've ever seen, except this time, it's actually happening. So let's be clear. Shedeur didn't just humble Kevin Stefanski. He humbled an entire mindset that's plagued this team for decades. He showed what happens when you bet on talent. When you bet on character, when you bet on someone who isn't afraid to speak up when the moment demands it. And now he's not just the face of the Browns. He's the blueprint. A new kind of quarterback for a new kind of NFL. Fearless, focused, unshakable. And if you're not watching yet, better tune in quick. Because what Shedeur Sanders is building in Cleveland, it's not just a team. It's a legacy in the making.